Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Winnipeg Jets franchise mode here in NHL 24. So I am still recovering of my cold a little bit. As you guys know, the last episode didn't happen on the Saturday. I apologize about that, but I'm almost getting back to full health, which is great, so I will be able to put these series episodes out on their regular days now. But if you didn't catch the last episode, we basically started the season sim. I honestly don't remember a whole lot because it feels like it's been ages since I've recorded an episode of this, but we are currently 13-8-2 and we're at November the 30th. It's been a little bit of an inconsistent start to the season, but it's been okay to the point that we are in a playoff spot at the moment and we're getting production from some of our top guys. So I wouldn't really say there's too much problems to have really with this team at the moment. Obviously, I hope that we start to find ourselves a little bit more and we can kind of separate ourselves away from being 500 and stuff. But I'm very excited to see still what this team develops into being like, because we've been developing this great prospect pool so far, and obviously it would be great to see it actually win a Stanley Cup. So hopefully that is to come within these next few years. Obviously, guys that we brought in like Charlie McAvoy have been a little bit on the disappointing front of side of things, so I'm hoping he can kind of find himself a little bit in the second half of the season and we continue to get some good development from our prospects. Obviously, it would be nice also if we could get better goaltending from Gabriel Deg, because he hasn't been the best so far up to this point in time. Meanwhile, Anunin has been very solid as a backup, so it would be great if we could get both goalies playing well, and then hopefully our team obviously could make it back to the playoffs again this season. More than likely in this episode, we're going to simulate up to the trade deadline, just because I don't think we're going to simulate the rest of the season yet, because I obviously want to make sure this team can get back into the playoffs for sure. But I also want to make sure that we're making the right decisions on who we want to be like keeping around for this team and all that type of thing, because we have still an abundance of good prospects in the minors and all that too, and obviously it would be great to get some of them into our lineup next season and all that too as well. But we want to kind of prioritize certain players, like once the guys hit like 24, 25, if they're getting outplayed by an 18-year-old at the same overall or something like that, obviously we would prioritize the younger options. So we got to start kind of like looking at this like with the big picture. Like, we have ourselves like a lot of guys that we know we want to have here for long term, but who are the guys that are here more on the short term and are more stopgaps? Is somebody like Chaz Lucius expendable down the road because he's 27, that type of thing? But obviously right now at the moment when we're trying to get into the playoffs and all that type of thing, obviously they're helpful, but will they be here for the long term? Will they be here for short term or brief stopgaps, that type of thing? So anyways, let's get into your guys' comments before we end up simulating a little bit more, because we're probably not going to make any changes to start this episode, but we will obviously simulate a little bit just to kind of see how our team is doing, and hopefully, like I said, we can kind of separate ourselves from being a 500 a little bit, because obviously the record being 13-8-2 is not bad, but obviously I would prefer to be kind of a little bit better than that, maybe something like 16 instead of 13 wins, you know. But anyways, the first comment is from Saturn Otaku. It says, your AHL and NHL teams are looking really good. The only suggestion I would have is to move your younger elite AHL prospects up to the top 6 and putting the older players like Cam and Barlow on the 3rd and 4th line, since they're likely not to play in the NHL. And I totally agree with that, so I am going to go ahead to our AHL roster and make some AHL adjustments. Not that we do care obviously about the AHL, but I'm not like obviously keeping a super huge active eye on it. So he's saying like guys like Cam and Barlow would move down. So we got to move up guys like Eberle, who's low elite potential. I think actually Rafalski is good, but he's already 23. That's the only problem. I don't mind keeping Rafalski on the top line. He's been the best AHL player up to this point. But yeah, Barlow and Cam should definitely be going down. Let's see. Ranta is a center, so we should maybe put Ranta down the middle on that top line. Skirbic is only bottom 6, so that doesn't matter too much, but obviously Hurd is low elite, so he should be up here, and we'll probably put him in the center position, since obviously we want to generate him getting some good statistics as his natural position. Enroth should probably be going up as well instead of some of those guys. Bickle is low elite too, so yeah, Barlow's definitely going to go down to the 4th line. And we'll probably, let's see, who's the better of the two? Playmaker. Yeah, we'll probably have Hurd as a 3rd liner, Bickle as a 2nd liner, just because of the age, in a sense. Like, Hurd is a little bit younger, but he's more of a defensive forward. Meanwhile, Bickle's more of an offensive guy, so second line makes better sense for him. Cam, on the other hand, I think he could probably stay where he is almost, unless we want to put Enroth. Actually, yeah, Enroth could play right wing too, so we'll get Enroth into the top 6. And then we'll run something like this, I think. Yeah, I think this is what we'll likely run with, because McGillis, to be honest, medium top 9 is not really much of anything. I'd rather keep Cam in that spot. So that should be good. From a defensive standpoint, is there anybody that should be higher up in the lineup? Essentially, I guess Rantanen should be down for Barnett, by that logic. Yeah, I guess that's what we'll do. And then goaltending-wise, obviously, we'll just stay the same, because we can't really do much there. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so now we have our lines optimized. You can see we got our top 6 in Rafalski, with our low lead and another top 6 in Wilson. Second line has a low lead, and another low lead. Third line has Cam, because Cam's a little bit dropping off a little bit in terms of not being able to make the NHL, with a low lead and also low 6 who's not likely going to make it. Then we have a medium top 9, a medium top 6 who's not really going to pan out much more than a depth forward, and then a medium bottom 6. So everything's pretty much optimized there on the AHL side of things. And then our last and final comment is from Josh Arsenault, who says, sometimes even in the first round, if there's nothing good available, I'll trade my first round picks for next year. For next year's first. It's risky, but it's also risky taking someone who might not turn out so good, or out, so it's pick your poison, to be honest. And yeah, I guess that makes sense. I don't know if I'll ever do that, really. Like, I might do that at some stage if I feel like gambling a bit, but it is a little bit, yeah, definitely of a risk trading that pick. And obviously you could have a later pick, you could have an earlier pick, but that might be something we have to look at eventually if the draft class is a little bit on the weaker end of things. So maybe we'll do that in the upcoming draft, depending on how good it ends up looking for us. But everything's, I think, ready to go. I think we're going to keep the team the exact same for now. And like I said, we're probably going to simulate up to the trade deadline just to see how this team actually does. Because if we're well above 500 by the end of this episode, we're looking good, obviously, and we're still going to obviously want to be a playoff team. But if we're way out of a playoff spot, or we're in a spot where we feel like we can fall back a little bit, maybe we want to do so because maybe this year's draft class is good. I don't know exactly, but let's simulate and see what ends up happening. Hopefully, like I said, the goaltending can find itself a little bit, and then hopefully also we could start separating ourselves a bit more from being a 500 team-ish. So let's go to the end of the month and see how we are at the end of December. Start off with a 2-1 win and then a 6-5 loss. So a good defensive effort and then a terrible one, but we only lost by a goal. 2 straight wins there, which is nice. Rafalski and Grattan for Jake Neighbors. No thank you. Not trading Rafalski just yet. He is one of those guys that might be a fringe NHLer. Hellenius has been injured. That's not great. Out till December the 26th. That's a pretty big blow, but we are off to a really good start to this episode, so it's good that we didn't decide to make any super huge adjustments yet. Not that we probably would have anyways, but it was Hellenius, yeah, that's back. So we got to get Knack out of that top line. Thank you, Knack, for being the Knack. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so Lindstrom was losing morale due to ice time. That's one concern, is getting players the right amount of ice time. Because obviously Kegarov's a third line scoring forward. Misa's listed as a second liner, which is crazy. And you have Grosek as a third liner. Oh yeah, Grosek was underperforming, that's right. But didn't I put him on the power play before the end of the last episode? I feel like I did. Yes, I did. Okay, so he should start getting going a little bit. But, yeah, Lindstrom listed as a third-line checking forward is not happy about his ice time down there. Jaquizi might not be as well. So we are going to run into issues. Obviously, we're a great young team, but we're going to run into those issues where players want to be playing more than they currently are. So at some stage, we might have to move players to get more players that are fitted into these roles. Like these guys that are listed as third-line checking forwards might have to go for guys that are listed as fourth-liners, just because obviously we want players playing in their correct areas. So soon enough, we're going to have to make some very tough decisions on where certain players should be. Like right now, we're playing Stankoven as a left winger when we could have been playing him as a center, but obviously that doesn't really do much for us because obviously we don't want Luke Misa being like a fourth-line center type of thing. So Yeah, we're going to have to make some decisions definitely either this offseason or in future off seasons, and they're going to be probably pretty tough ones. But yeah, very good start to this episode, which is great. Hopefully the defense and the goaltending has been good too. 22, 10, and 3. That's much better. Because we were 13, what was it, 13-9 and something, or 13-8 and 2 to start this episode? I can't even remember, to be honest. But much better stretch there for our team. We are currently second place in the division, only a point back of the Blues with the game in hand. So pretty good. Pretty good. Let's continue. And obviously, once we get to the day before the deadline, we'll take a look at player stats and all that type of thing, see what's been going good, what hasn't been going good for this team. Because there's probably some stuff that hasn't been good, but obviously we don't know that exactly just yet. 11-5 win over the Florida Panthers. Okay, so offense seems to be a great thing for our team. But I have seen a couple games where we've allowed a lot of goals, so I feel like our defensive / goaltending is still not the best. But we are 31-16-3. At the start of February, which once again has us second place. 3 points back now, the Blues, which is not bad. I wouldn't want to win our division anyways. And there is a gap between us and the Preds, who are right behind us. But as you can see after that, there is an absolute war zone for who gets into the playoffs. The Coyotes are on 55 points, Wildcards on 57. And then you have the Preds who are on 59 right behind us. But if you look at other teams... Yeah, the Oilers are also trying to fight to get into the playoffs. So there's a war zone to get into the playoffs. So hopefully we do not fall off too hard at random points, because that could really hurt us a lot. So let's continue assimilating. This honestly could be a very short episode, which is fine considering my voice is still not the best, but we'll see. We're not going to accept really any trades in this episode unless something crazy happens. Christian Kyrou has been injured with a mild concussion. That's not great. I'm going to go replace player, but that's not the type of injury we want to have happen. He's one of our better offensive defensemen. We did win 3 straight games with him out, though, which is quite amazing to say the least. So we'll go to defense. Nordstrom got to play a couple of games, which is nice, because that guy has only low 4 potential, so I thought, hey, use him as a depth option because he's not really going to probably outgrow that overall too much. Barnett and Lorkainen for Lindholm and Anderson Dolan is not really what I'm looking to do. I'm not looking to move youth like that for guys that are old and only on 1-year deals at the moment. Maybe eventually down the road we'll look to do that, but right now the youth movement is in full effect. Irving has pulled his groin. That's a kind of a bad injury. He will be injured for a week, so he will be back after the trade deadline. We are now 39-18-3 after a very good stretch of hockey. Goddamn, 5-2 win, 9-2 win, 6-4 win, 5-0 win, and a 5-1 win. So our offense, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic, it looks like. The defense in some games has not been there, but our offense is maybe the most elite offense we've seen in a while. Hopefully we have some very good depth scoring, and we'll go to a day here before the deadline. 8-7 shootout win. Yep, offense is fantastic. And like I said, Irving will be back in next episode against the Anaheim Ducks, it seems like. We have 40 wins already, which is awesome. And Misa's only leading us with 66 points, which means our depth scoring definitely is great. Because if he's only a little bit over a point per game, that means definitely we have a lot of guys picking up a lot of points, not just one dude. And we are now leading the Central Division, and we are currently the second best team in the NHL, only behind the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I am very impressed with how this youth movement has gone. It's gone exactly the plan. Regular season-wise, this team's turning out to be a very good team. Obviously, playoff-wise is where it's going to be interesting to see if we do good, but everything seems to be trending in the right direction so far at this point. Let's take a look at our team stats and player stats up to this point in the season. We'll take a look at the trading block to see if there's anything that could help us even more so. But I honestly might just want to keep with this team still as is right now at this point and make off-season trades when we want to. So currently at the moment, we are the second best team in the NHL. We are currently the best offensive team in the NHL, yet we have only one guy potentially, well, not one guy only above point per game likely, but we have only a guy that's leading us in points with 66 points. So a guy that's only on pace for like 80-something points, but we are the best offensive team. Goals against per game wise, we are currently the 4th best defensive team. So good offense, great defense apparently, which is kind of surprising to me. Every team is allowing over 3 goals a game except for the Nashville Predators, so it might be more of an offensive-based season. Our power play has been clicking at 31.1%, so the offense has been great, and the power play from that has been really good too. And then our penalty kill has not been the best, but it hasn't been the worst either. It is a little bit below mid-table, so obviously the penalty kill could still use some work, but at the same time, it doesn't make a huge issue, I don't think, at the moment. 6 short-handed goals, 18-11 and 2 on home ice, and 22-8 and 1 on the road. 7 and 3 in our last 10 games. So if there's one thing to address, it's probably our penalty kill. But let's take a look at our player stats and see who's been doing what. Holy crap, man, this depth scoring is insane. Misa on 66 points, plus 19. Absolute great player for our team. I don't know how much he's going to finish off with this season, but he might have less points than the last 2 years, but that's because of the depth scoring. Lucius on 56 points has been great. Stankoven on 55 has been great. Luke Misa on the third line in power play has been great, 51 points. And then we have Kagorodov on 37, 22 goals, which is pretty crazy. And then Perfetti's only on 37, and he's one of our lowest scoring centers. Actually, he is our lowest scoring center. Is Perfetti not even getting any power play time? I thought I had him on the power play unit. That is strange. So we're getting great production, but Cole Perfetti's been one of the worst players on the team, which is really weird to say, but 37 points is still not a bad season. I thought I had him on a power play unit, though. I gotta double check. If he's not on a power play unit, we should be putting him on a power play unit. But if he doesn't need to be on the power play unit and he's still gonna do well, that's okay, but I want him on a power play unit, I think. Grosik on 37 points has been respectable. He's definitely getting better since he's gotten power play time. Picked up a couple power play points, actually quite a few. 3 power play goals, 15 goals up to this point. Lindstrom on only 12 points and a -6. And he's also losing morale. So if I'm looking to move somebody from this team, Caden Lindstrom might be the guy. He's already 25. We find ourselves a guy that's actually listed as a 4th line center, and that we could use maybe in a penalty kill situation. That might be something we would look to do this season. Because I honestly don't think Caden Lindstrom's part of my future here. Just based on the fact that he's not really fitting into the bottom 6 as much as I was hoping. And the fact that he's already losing morale. It might be better to find somebody a bit more defensively oriented on that 4th line. But we could keep him for the year if we want to, and then just let him go. Because I think, yeah, I believe he's a pending UFA, or maybe he's still pending RFA, but we don't have to qualify him. Right wing wise, Hellenius on 60 points has been great. Irving's already on 30 goals. And he's missed the last 2 games, and he's going to miss a few more. So Aiden Irving is a beast. I love this guy. He's probably one of my favorite players in the series. There's a good chance he hits 40 goals again this season, but he might have less than the last 2 years, or last 3 years, I should say, just because of the fact he had that injury. But he's been a great player so far on this team. And yeah, he's on a great contract. Jaquizi, almost a Jaquizi for no reason. 23 points, pretty solid rookie season so far. Yakel on 15 points and a -7 is not great. The 15 points is okay, but the -7 not so much. So the 4th line has been banged up a bit, but obviously you're going to have a line that does that. Knack has been good as a depth option. Kyrou on 48 points has been great. McAvoy on 37, so McAvoy's starting to pick up the offense a bit, but he's a -8, so his defensive play hasn't been as good as I was hoping, but that's okay. Vandermeer on 33 points and a +16. So Will Vandermeer is going to have a career high in season. He's shooting really good percentage-wise in his career at this point. So really liking the way Will Vandermeer is developing. Vernarski on 16 points as well. That's pretty good. +11. Palin 15 points, -1. Galvas 13, +12 is really solid too. And Nordstrom picked up a goal in only 2 games. That's not bad. And it was a power play marker. So shout out to Thomas Nordstrom. And goaltending, Dag is improving a bit. Not the best stats still, and Noonan got a little bit worse, but both goaltenders have been okay. I guess in terms of how this league is, in terms of over goals against per game, there's like every team is allowing over 3 goals a game usually. These goalies have been okay. I do want to take a look at the league leaders at this point, just in curiosity purposes, briefly. Holy crap, Matthews is already on 95 points. Craziness. And already on 51 goals. Okay. Well, we're not going to have a Richard winner this season. McCarr's been insane, not a surprise. Gabriel Deggs leading in wins. Out of curiosity, who's the best goaltender this season? Ulmerk and Shesterkin with 918 save percentages. Yeah, goaltending averages seem to be about like the 2.78s are like really good. And then you have a bunch of goalies probably in the 2.8s and the 2.9s. So it's a bit of a high scoring league, I guess. Best rookie right now is Earl Ferrario in San Jose. Okay. Well, let's take a look at the trading block just to see if there's anything out there for next episode that we could maybe bring in. But I honestly don't think there's much I would move from our team. I think we might want to honestly just stay the course with how this team has been. But if there's somebody I would move, it would be maybe Lindstrom or Yakula, because that fourth line has been a little bit bad, especially these two guys, in terms of plus minus. So maybe I would look to move Lindstrom, get ourselves a new fourth line center and a fourth line winger, and then maybe use Yakula more as depth. Just because these guys aren't more defensively oriented players, they're more offensively oriented. So it would be good to get a defensive-minded guy for that fourth line. And then the penalty kill hasn't been good up to this point, but we could find ourselves a good penalty killer to replace Lindstrom, because Lindstrom is getting some penalty kill time. So I did want to take a look if Perfetti was also on the power play at the moment. Is he? He's not on the power play. Knack is playing right now just because of Irving's injury. There's not really anywhere I could slot him in unless I took Charlie McAvoy off the power play. Because Misa's been great, so I don't really feel like taking any of these guys really off the power play. There's a chance that we might have to look at the move Cole Perfetti at some point too, because Luke Misa could honestly take over his role pretty easily. That's an interesting dilemma. Wasn't expecting that. Okay, let's take a look at the trading block now anyways, and I'll also take a look at the draft class just in case. Just in case we want to see if there's any good options out there yet for the upcoming draft. But I think this team obviously will be a playoff team, and the real question is how long. And I honestly don't, like I said, know if I want to really bring in anything. It's just more about kind of making us a bit better defensively on that fourth line. Okay, so Arizona, not really any fourth line defensive guys. Those are all more top six oriented, and we're not really going to touch our top six or top nine for that matter. I would say the fourth line is where I would want to look at a little bit more, if anything. Or we just keep the course, so to speak. Why does Jeremy Poirier... Or is it Jeremy or Justin? I don't remember. Jeremy Poirier literally looks... I don't know. Something about that photo just looks really weird. Maybe it's just his amount of freckles on his face or something. Like, I'm not trying to pick on the guy, but it just... Something looks strange in that photo. Trevor Moore is a fourth line left wing, or right wing or bottom six guy. Wouldn't be bad, but he is very close to retirement. He is a playmaker, though. We're looking more for two-way forwards, if anything. Bunting isn't really a third liner. He's a really good offensive guy, or a fourth liner, I mean. None of those guys are interesting. There is good players on the block, but like I said, we're not really touching our top six. Our top six has been great. Top nine has been actually good in general. It's more those fourth line options. This guy's a minor scoring forward. No, thank you. Cole Lind, or is it Callan? Cole Lind. Cole Lind would be okay as a fourth line option, but I don't think he's really a huge upgrade. We could bring him in as a fourth line option because he's more defensively oriented, but he only has 82 defensive awareness, so not really sure if he's what I would bring in. He's not a huge upgrade. We want kind of somebody that would be a good upgrade for the penalty kill if there's anybody out there. Let's see, LA. Wow, they have Kyle Connor on the block now. That's kind of funny. So they're going into their rebuild territory. Wallstead is great, but we don't need goaltenders really at the moment. Let's see. No, Logan Brown's not that type of guy. Seeing a lot more offensively minded guys than defensive. which is not really what we had in mind. Ryan Donato, he is a two-way. Good defensive awareness, but that's pretty much it. Ryan Donato could be okay, but I feel like he's more of an offensive guy. Good shooting, good passing, not really somebody you'd have on a fourth line. What else we got here? Carter Hart. John Marino, yeah, not really what I'm looking for. Josh Morrissey on the block. Like, it's funny, we literally traded away our best players so we could go into our rebuild territory more, and now we're getting into the territory where we're good, and the teams we traded our players to are not very good. So, that's kind of neat. Even though it doesn't seem like that long ago. Ryan McLeod. Listed as a fourth line forward. 2-way forward. He would be a pretty good fourth line center to replace Lindstrom. Because Lindstrom's listed as a third line checking forward. Ryan McLeod probably won't complain about his ice time because he's getting that fourth line role. He is older, but he's also a 2-way forward. Ryan McLeod could be the guy if we're looking for anything, to be honest, for that fourth line. And then I wouldn't mind maybe making Yakala as a scratch. But honestly, we could just run with him. And of course, my controller just died. God damn. Now I need to make a cut. Okay, as I was saying anyways, I think if we want to, Ryan McLeod would be good to replace Lindstrom, but then we could keep Yakala as a fourth line left wing. Because we don't need to scratch him, but it might be better just because he's more offensively oriented. But I don't know if there's going to be much else out there to replace him. P.S. Suter's been apparently really good this season. But I don't see him as a fourth line kind of guy. He is listed as a depth forward though, so he could work potentially. But he's not very defensive in my opinion. Jack Reeves, no. Yeah, that's it. So I think if I was to look at a player, it would be Ryan McLeod as a fourth line center option, just to give us a bit more of a defensive guy on that fourth line instead of Lindstrom. And then Lindstrom, like, we could probably do Lindstrom for McLeod, and we could even maybe get back a little bit more since we're giving up a younger player. That might be an okay move. I'm going to just take a look at the trade finder and see what Seattle would want for somebody like Ryan McLeod. It's probably just going to be a pick that they would want from, but I probably would want to try and find a way to move Lindstrom in that same deal, or we can move him in a different deal. A fourth rounder and Bishop in a fifth rounder. Those are the same year drafts, so you would take the, I don't understand the logic, but I mean, I would not definitely not accept that. I would definitely do something like that, but I would probably, like I said, want to move Lindstrom in a deal to get him. Yeah, I think we could definitely bring in Ryan McLeod if we want to actually bring in somebody and a little bit more of a veteran presence to the team. So there's that. And final thing I wanted to take a look at, really, or final few things I want to take a look at, is the AHL player stats a little bit right now, and also the draft class. So let's take a look at the draft class first, just to see if we're seeing anything good here in this draft. It might be one of those years, honestly, that we look to move our first for a future first, but it depends on some of these guys. 2 years out. There might be some good players in this draft, to be honest, but we don't know yet. This guy's listed as a bust, but his name is Gyro, so, or Gyro, I don't even know. Let's just see if there's any lowlights already that we know about, just because it would be nice to pin a couple of them already for the offseason, even though that's hopefully far away for us still. Sergei Semin. Actually might be decent, to be honest. Might be medium 4 only, or low 4. There might be some guys that are low lead here. Some of them look actually decent shooting-wise and all that. So, like Edmonds here. Yeah, there might be some decent players, which is nice. Okay. Let's take a quick look at the AHL as well here. See if they're in the playoff spot at the moment. They currently, I think, are. And Rafalski is still over point per game. So Jody Rafalski might be a guy that cracks our NHL lineup eventually too. But he is already 23. So that's the only problem. He's definitely our best AHL player right now, based on how he's performing. He Great passing, good offensive awareness. He might be a guy that would work well in the NHL at some point. Then Cam's up there, so the older guys. Wilson's up there. Barlow. Rangers seems to be doing good. Some of the low elites are definitely producing. Some of them have been pretty bad defensively, though, like Enroth, who's minus 14. But in general, looks like the AHL's having an okay year. Also look at progress reports briefly, too. I know this is during the season, but still. And yeah, Johnny Grant's still been very good. Scarlett, on the other hand, has been not too great. He has been better than he was before, but yeah, Scarlett, the medium elite, has been struggling a bit. Let me take a look at the prospect, our progress reports, because I am curious on that, if we're getting good development from those guys, too. I'm not going to look at their overalls and stuff yet, but I just want to see if they're growing at all. Let's see. So obviously NHL stuff is mostly just not going to be there yet, but okay, we are getting growth. I don't really want to pay attention much to this, but I'm just going to briefly look through or skim through this just to see if we're getting good growth, which seems to be the case. Is there anybody that's not growing? Rafalski isn't growing at all. He might be just a career good AHL player, but I wouldn't mind getting him to the NHL at some point, but I don't know if he's going to get that chance. Grant's not growing much either, or growing at all either at the moment. Hopefully they get some statistical boost, but... And then also guys like Scarlett aren't growing like the defenseman. Louis Vara isn't either. So those guys might need an NHL role to grow more. So these three guys should be on our blue line. We could also look to flip Nilstorp because he's 24 if we wanted to bring in somebody really good to help us. But, I mean, it's not necessary. So, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Winnipeg Jets franchise mode. So, in next episode, we will take it to the trade deadline. We might make some trades to make us better fourth line-wise defensively and on the penalty kill. And we'll simulate the rest of the season and see where we finish. But there is a chance that we might be a President's Trophy winning team with one of the youngest teams in the NHL. So anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.